I'm so glad we could finally do this.
Me too.
Guys,
so happy.
It's so nice. Lynn, welcome back.
Thank you.
Love your shirt. Green.
Thanks.
Very themed.
Green. I know.
I
I
love
thought
that.
we almost were the rainbow today, but
We kind of did.
we're our own little rainbow.
I tried to go for the pink, apparently. I was like,
Standing
gonna be all fancy.
I love it.
I'm so happy we just got, I can't believe we're just hanging out.
I know.
It's crazy.
crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Well, this will be a forever friendship now.
Yes,
I love
yes.
that. We got to talk a little bit before, so now we can repeat ourselves.
Yeah.
But Angie, why don't
Yeah.
we do like a little brief intro for everyone
Let's do
to know Sarah, obviously, and Lynn.
Yeah, welcome to the Green Room.
Thank you.
This is an amazing mental health podcast that Jenna started during the pandemic, which we're like 3 years in now, and it's amazing. Supported by the JED Foundation, which is a mental health alliance, and She is the Music, which is amazing support to all women in the music industry. And today our guest is Sarah Hudson, amazing, unbelievable, not only songwriter, but like artist, I would say personality, light worker, just like an all-around great person in this industry, and someone who I feel really is true to herself through and through. So I really was excited to bring you on to talk about just how you stay true to being an individual and yourself in this industry. So I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Queen Angie. That was so sweet.
And then we have Lynn rejoining us, our amazing therapist, who's going to shed so much light and, real life into this. And then Jenna Andrews, our multi-hyphenate creator, producer, executive producer, songwriter, everything. It's amazing.
Love it. All the hats.
All the
I
hats.
have so many hats here too. We should have just exchanged the hats.
Yeah.
No, but this is honestly just a very loose conversation. I just, it's nice because this is the second one that we've done in person.
Yeah.
But usually it's just kind of like, talking about everything that, we go through in this industry, but also in life, and I think that's like a really important thing. And I think for people listening, it would just be nice to know like how your story started, or just talk about a little bit how you got into, music, how you got to where you are today and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I came from a really musical, entertainment, artistic family. I grew up in Los Angeles. And so I was sort of just in it, and in like a creative environment. Started singing as soon as I could remember, and playing piano, and, writing my own little songs. And, really long story short, after high school, I was just doing shows, like my own little shows with a little like CD player thing. Like I'd have to not move around too much so it wouldn't skip. It was like a whole thing. And I just did that for as much as I could, many years of just kind of hustling, doing my own little shows. And then I ended up meeting a publisher, got a publishing deal, ended up getting a record deal, making a record, getting dropped, got signed again, dropped again. And then I, started my own band. I was in a band for 6 years. And then...
No way. I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
I love it.
I lived in New York in this band. We were just like so broke, just so like, living that band sort of grindy kind of life. And I don't know, it led me to meet so many amazing people. And then I started writing with other people and writing with artists, and figured out, I can do this as a career.
Right.
Also. So it just sort of took off from there, really. I mean, I'm skipping so many like details and steps, and it was obviously
number one hits,
Well, that happened later, but like, it took me a minute to...
How did that happen? Like, what was your first big hit?
Really, Dark Horse was like my first massive song. And it's a really cool story because I was super, super like broke, filing for bankruptcy, living in LA, living in my studio, no shower, no kitchen, like go to the YMCA to shower kind of energy. Like we were dead broke. Me and my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
he's been with you the whole ride.
He was in my band with me in New York.
That's beautiful.
So we kind of really like came up together, which has been amazing to have him as a support. But yeah, so filing for bankruptcy, just really fucking. Can I?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, good. Shit. Okay.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Okay,
Actually, 100%. It's about do you.
And it was just like a really low, weird time because we were in a band together, and he was like, I'm done with the band. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do my own project. And I'm kind of like, well, okay, what do I do? I've only ever done my own music and put out my own artist stuff. So I was like, what do I do? And I met a ton of other writers and artists throughout my experience in the band. So I reached out to some of them like, hey, let's write. I'll write for you, whatever. So I met this artist named Faraz. I don't know if
Oh yeah, I know Faraz.
Yeah. And we just clicked instantly and started writing so much together.
Right.
And he, at the time, was really good friends with Katy Perry. So he would kind of bring me around and we'd hang out. And then she ended up hearing stuff that we were working on together. And she heard me singing a demo, and she was like, I think she was like, oh, maybe, I could write with this girl. Like, that'd be cool. So she hit me up one night. We were already friends a little bit. And she hit me up one night. I was at the club, and I get a text from her, and she's like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, I don't know, nothing. She's like, do you want to come to Santa Barbara and write with me, Dr. Luke, Max Martin, and Circuit? And at the time,
You're like, no.
I was like, oh my God. Like, this is like the biggest opportunity of my life at the time.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So I went up, we wrote Dark Horse, like literally in like 4 or 5 hours. Like, it was such an effortless, incredible experience. I drove home that night thinking like, I hope it makes the album. Like, that would be cool, Wow. And it ended up being like a fan favorite. And then it literally wasn't even planned to be like a single, I don't think. And then it was literally started climbing the charts on its own, like an actual dark horse, which I love that, like it started coming up. That. And it was like, oh my God, like, immediately I reversed my bankruptcy. I got a publishing deal. Like, my whole life just went like, whew, flipped around. So that was like my main sort of moment into songwriting and like hits and this whole world that I'm in now. So,
well, don't you think though, like in terms of purpose, it's so interesting because like everyone has those type of stories. I mean, like not everyone, but I think a lot of people that we, are around in this industry, I think that especially if you're meant to do it, like oftentimes, like when you hit your lowest point, something appears.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
yes.
I think that like, in terms of the spiritual aspect of it, like it's so comforting to know because then as much as we worry about and we talked about this in one of the past episodes, but it's so hard not to fixate on the past or what's going to happen in the future. But these experiences like really teach you to be like, okay, I'm fine.
Right.
Right. Like, yeah.
Well, I have to say one thing that really changed everything for me was at the time, right before this happened, I was like really down in the dumps and like depressed, broke. I was like, what is my life? What am I doing? I got this book that someone told me about called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And it's all about gratitude. And every single
we talked about this last
every single day you do like a gratitude exercise. Like, you write what you're grateful for. One day it's like about food. One day it's about friendship. One day it's just all different areas of your life. I swear to God, it changes the vibration. It changes your frequency. Like it allows you to be happy without getting like wrapped up in, oh, I need to be happy in my career in order to be happy as a person. Right. I need to be, it changed everything for me. And I swear to God, that's when everything like flipped. And I started getting the calls and the opportunities. And it's just like the universe responds to that vibration.
I'm so
100%.
glad that you brought that up because it's so true. It's so hard, I think, to realize how like like lucky you are for the small things. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like in terms of the things to be grateful for, like, you know, even just to be sitting here today with great people, like that's something to be like, I'm grateful for that. Cause that experience, you know, like 5-10 years down the road, I will remember this moment and be like, this was such a great moment. And I think in that sense, when you do start thinking that way, it pays back, obviously, like that's, I think, where manifesting, I think some people don't necessarily know how manifesting works, but it's so natural in that sense, right?
Yeah, it has to start with the gratitude.
Yes.
Because I think, like you said, the vibrations are so aligned in that sense, because it's, there's like a freedom to it. Because when you're not, right? Because when you're not like so like bogged down by all this stuff, like that's why it's like when it rains, it pours, in a bad and good way.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're constantly thinking about the negative, then you see so much negative stuff follow.
That's manifesting.
Yeah, exactly.
You can manifest negatively or positively. It's like what you think about. What is the thing? It's like where your attention goes, energy flows. So that's just
I love that.
Negative or positive,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It's
also,
so true.
It makes me think of just being in this industry that we're in. It's like our job is not like, we don't like work somewhere where it's 9 to 5 and then we go home and our job's there. It's like our job is 24/7.
100%, yeah.
And it's emotional and creative. So we're constantly creating and using our emotions to make art. And that's 24/7. And I think you can get your happiness wrapped up in that sort of like, oh, I got a win, I'm happy. Or, oh, I created something, I'm happy. Like once I learned to, obviously I love my career and it makes me happy. But once I learned to separate happiness from my career and find it in the smaller things, like hanging out with my dog, or like you said, being here today with good people, or seeing a fucking beautiful tree, like that
gratitude of all the little things.
that changes everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. That's so funny because, like, I'm sure you can relate, but like in the beginning, we were kind of briefly talking about this, but like you're going to so many meetings and you're like, listen to my song. And you like the second that you feel like they don't like it, you're like, oh my God, my life is over. But when you go into it with confidence, like, I don't care. Like, do I really care? Like, if they like it, great. If they don't, cool. Like, I have my life. I'm good. Like,
that's right.
Right? It's crazy to walk out and the empowerment that you feel, it changes completely, regardless if it could be the same outcome, which is amazing because you can still hold on to this song that you know is great and it doesn't actually make you feel like the song isn't great or you're not great.
Right.
Which, right?
And you don't tie your happiness to the outcome.
That's my,
that meeting, that song, that whatever.
I did that for so long.
Oh, like, so I think we all do. And I think it's totally normal and natural to do that. But when you figure it out,
it's
great. It's so freeing. It's
and then
so
the
freeing.
success is in the effort and not the outcome.
Yes.
And
yes.
Because when you generate
that.
it, that's your creativity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly. So that's your purpose. And then you manifest exactly what's happening and what you believe is right because you believe you deserve to have that be shining somewhere else.
Exactly.
Right?
That's so
it
true.
All works. Yeah.
And it does make sense, like, to feel joy in like hobbies and stuff too. Because like, even I find, like, for me, I love fashion or even like mental health, obviously, discussing it's cathartic. Like, and you realize like it doesn't serve anything besides like a greater purpose. It's not like there's a selfish goal at the end. Does that make sense? It's something that you enjoy.
Right.
You're not like, I'm doing it because this song is going to make me money or get me like fame or whatever people do it for. If you put that energy into your career the same way that you would into a hobby that you genuinely enjoy, it's kind of crazy. Like,
it's so true.
Isn't it true? Like just enjoying the moment where you're like writing a song and you're like, wow, this was like a fun day.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And you just walk out being like, damn, I had fun today. Like, that's cool. That's enough. And anything else that comes after, then whatever.
Totally.
Right? But what do you find like now going through all those experiences and saying all this stuff? Like, are there still experiences that happen that, like, what do you do in the moment? Like when you're doing, you know what I'm saying? When there's a session or something or something happens and you start to feel kind of like a dark thing. How do you deal with that? Like now,
Meaning,
in today's Sarah, like, meaning like, you know, just self-doubt, those things. Do you even feel those things? I mean, I'm sure it's human, right?
Like, of course. I think it's, I don't think the feelings really ever go away, or that sort of negative side. It never really goes away. It's how you handle it and that you're aware of it, and, you know, remind yourself, like the things that we're talking about now. It's like, you know, it's, I think in this industry too, it's such a strange competition, high school kind of like, well, she got this and well, they got that. And am I going to get that? And like, we're almost like energetically not like pitted against each other, but it's an energetic like competition. I can't explain it, you know, like it's like, there's not that many of us, and there's a lot of music out there, and there's like there's a lot to I think we have to remember that like there's room for all of us, and that what I bring to the table is special and unique, and what you bring is special and unique. And it's like the comparing is really where it gets like, I don't know, like dark. Destructive and dark. So I'm not really answering your question, but I just went on a rant, but I just remind myself, like we were just saying, like I have a life, I have friends I love, I have, you know, someone who loves me, I have dogs, I have things I enjoy, and like it's okay. Like if I don't get this cut, if I don't get this, you know, opportunity, it's okay. Another one is going to come my way. Like there's room for all of us, you know? And I think I step into that space of reminding myself that, and really working on like being happy for someone else's success, and someone else's like, oh, she got that opportunity, I didn't get it. That's dope for her. You know, like
that's really
like,
important.
I really like consciously remind myself to put that energy out there, you know,
like give someone else their,
because also
it's
like
important.
I'm an Aries. I am competitive. Like I'm fiery. Like I do love to win. I do have that side of me. So I have to remember, like, it's okay, girl. Like just,
I'm a Capricorn. I get it.
You know, it's like, and I think that's good. That helps us achieve our goals.
No, 100%.
Keeps us pushing.
And it keeps us on, you know, successful. But also like, I have to really just talk to myself sometimes and be like, it's cool.
Or
like,
reframe the competitiveness. So it's just trying to be even a little bit better than you were yesterday.
Exactly.
And then the next day.
That's interesting. Compete against yourself.
Yeah. I love that.
It's all about growth then, instead about pro or con.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
That's really, I love the idea of that. I think like because I definitely think by empowering someone, there's joy you get from that, right? And I don't know if I asked you this question because I know in situations that I feel of that sort of that competitive tension, I find that like vulnerability and honesty, even in like, oh, this is feeling uncomfortable, or I feel weird today, or I've, you know, talk about anxiety, talk about things that are real. Instantly people are like,
oh, she's human.
You almost
Yes.
you almost feel like everyone's like this, and then you feel like people are like,
yeah,
you know, it starts to like really help, I think, right? Just becoming like, not even, the human thing, but I just thinking like, so everyone comes in with weapons, and you're like, you can put them down.
Yeah.
They come in with protection.
I
don't mean about connection.
I'm talking about connection. Yes. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So the protect, when you give yourself permission to feel safe, then shifts into connect. And that's the
my
love
point.
and the joy and the generosity and the gratitude.
So true. Because I think we all feel the same thing.
Yes.
Isn't that a crazy
we
thing
all
to
have
think?
insecurities. We all have anxiety. We all have fear. And it's like we have these walls where
so true.
we walk into society to like be strong, but like
Armor.
we can relate to each other when we go, I feel like shit today, or I'm scared of this, or you know, it's normal.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that, because if you think about it that way, like, isn't that so funny? Like people come in and everyone's like, I think there's an aspect, especially when you're young and coming up, it's like, I'm different than everyone. I'm better. Like I have, like, it's almost like you have to have this ego that makes you feel like, well, I'm like superhuman. And you're like, actually, you're kind of the same. Like everyone's the same. Like you're right. We just like show we show it differently.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Like some people, and I admire those people that have like these like huge confidence, you know, and like are able to just act like they don't care, but they do care.
Well, it's an
you know?
interesting balance, I think, in the industry we're in, because you have to be confident, really, and you have to
Or fake it.
be or fake it, yeah, and be like, you know, a go-getter and put yourself out there and be okay with rejection and be okay to get up again and do it. You know, you have to be strong and fearless, but also so vulnerable. So it's like really finding the balance.
Yeah. Which is beautiful when you find it.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like I would say like music business is like an oxymoron. So is that vulnerable and what do we say? Vulnerable and confident?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not as much of one, but like, you know how like music's so like music makes us happy. It brings us joy. It's like freedom, but business is so like, how is that together in one place? Think about that. You know what I mean? Because everybody, like, if we think about all of us, like, we all grew up loving music from such a pure place, and you listen to it being like, oh my God, this makes me feel like just it releases endorphins. It makes you just feel like you're not in this planet, and then you come into the music business and you deal with this stuff. Yeah, and you're like, wait, what? Yeah, this is how you do this.
It's a weird thing. It doesn't go together, really. In a way, but then you just learn to make it work.
It has to,
right? It's just, I mean, but you know, I think that's what makes you be those experiences, and especially just in life, make you write better songs. Yes, right. I mean, what are you writing about? If you, as a songwriter, especially, like, people connect to real life experiences. And that's what makes, and that's a blessing. Yeah. In that sense. Gratitude. Yes. Yeah. Right? Always. I mean, and do you, in terms of like just doing it, like in terms of like even with your fashion, how you, I know I always watch your stories. You're just so like open about everything that you feel. Was that always kind of how you were, or did you grow into that?
I just was always that way. Like I just
really, even during the dark times, you were just like, fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe there was at one point where I was putting on a front way early in my career of just, I'm strong. Like I didn't want to show my weakness. Right. Yeah. So I think I learned, you know, that is okay. And I'm comfortable with that now, but maybe at one point I wasn't. But I've always just like, I don't know. I've always just been like, very authentic to who I am and what I think, and talking about what I believe and and I've always been very spiritual and seeking just more spiritual meaning out of life. And, you know, and you know, sometimes like people don't like the things I say, or I've had that my whole life. And it's really just like, yeah.
Like, what do they say? Like, I feel like you're such an open, like, the way that you talk, just talking to you now, it just feels so open and friendly. You're not like you're not pushing your values. Right. Like in this conversation, at least.
No, I never ever want to do that or be that way. I think just sometimes when you're really uncomfortable with who you are, or you don't totally know who you are, when somebody is comfortable with who they are and they are saying something that like triggers you in a way, you can react and get defensive or reactive. And I'm okay with people reacting that way.
What do you do?
I kind of like it. I'm like, it's good for you, you know, like, why do you feel
debate.
This way?
You'll like go back and forth?
So mostly with like some of my friends I do. Okay. Like, but not really. I don't like sort of arguing or I don't like that energy, you know? So yeah, I don't know.
Do you feel like you were raised in an environment where you were celebrated for being you, and you know, you were very like around people that just like let you really grow into who you were, instead of like trying to be like, no, this is how you're supposed to be and this is what you're supposed to do. And that like also helped like you know, be such an individual today?
I think it was like a little bit of both for me, because my family is very eccentric. So I grew up in art, and like I had eccentric people around all the time.
Right,
so
that's cool.
I grew up with that, being comfortable with that. But then I also went to Catholic school my whole life. So it was like,
interesting.
wear a uniform. This is wrong. You will go to hell for this. Like all these things that were like trying to box me in, that made me go, hell no. Like I don't fuck with this at all. And it made me go even like further opposite, you know?
That's so interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just in how, you know, how I dressed, how I acted. Like I think I even acted out in my youth a lot to just be like, no, like I will not be in this box, you know? And that was so important to me. Mm-hmm. Like, and still is. Like, I just don't believe in that.
Interesting that you grew up with, like your parents are artistic, right?
Yeah,
and
my
they
dad
still wanted to send you to Catholic school?
Yeah, very strange. I know. I don't understand.
That is so, I was like, what?
Girl, Italian, Catholic.
Italian.
My father's family was Italian Catholic. My, you know, they wanted to send me to a good school, and I grew up in LA, and they thought maybe sending me to an all-girls private Catholic school was a good idea, but it actually did the complete opposite. I mean, I was out every night. I was partying. I was it did the opposite.
I mean, girl, I'm just like imagining you at an all-girls I'm like,
girl, no. I would like, you know, draw tattoos on me, and I'd shave my head, and I'd wear, like, I was anything to not fit in was like, I would do it.
Isn't it like, there's such a beauty in like not fitting in is fitting in. Is it not? Like that to me, it's always been like that for me too. Cause like, I mean, that's what's so cool. And my next thing I was going to talk to you about is like, before we started this, we talked about being an underdog, and you feel, I know I felt like that my whole life, but there's something cool about that. Is there not? Like,
yeah. I mean, I just thought of, when I was saying that, I just thought of our conversation before. Right? It's like, I still feel like that in this business. Like,
same.
Like no matter how much like success or relationships or songs or number ones or this or that, whatever, I still have this feeling of like, okay, like, you know,
this is my first day.
Yeah. Like okay, what's next? I gotta like prove myself, and I gotta, but I don't know if that's just cause like I love it and I love making music and I love, you know, creating, or if it's like, I don't know what it is. It's just wild. I think it's something that will never sort of go away. I don't know.
Well, you know what? There's such a humility to that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just makes you feel like I think when you come into making art, being humble is so great.
Oh, totally.
You know?
Totally.
Like I love that. And I think that it's even like when people come in and they're like listening to your songs after you've done the song, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, and like the A&R still comes in or whoever, and you're just like I still feel it. I'm like,
right.
I'm like, I sometimes I'm just like, Jenna, like what? Like, but then you have to just, it's self-talk.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm like doing self-talk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's nice. It's sweet. I think it's like, I love that. And I've learned to embrace that. Yeah. It seems like you do too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm just kind of like, well, you know, this is my cards. Like this is,
I got to answer your question.
I know. I wanted you to chime in. I was waiting for your
I felt that coming.
So did you?
I was like, yeah.
Feel my energy. Okay. Where does your music come from? Does it come through you, or is it self-generated? Do you know?
You answer for. I'm trying to think. Oh wait. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
You go ahead. You go ahead.
I mean, I really am very spiritual with it, and I just really believe like I'm a channel, and I show up. I open myself up to it. Obviously, I have the skill set, and I know how to write a song, but I just think those ideas that are just those special ones, I think they just are like beamed through us. Mm-hmm. I obviously,
like you're in the flow.
Yeah, you're in the flow. Yeah. But it's both. Then some days I'll go in and I feel very in my body and in my mind, and I'm like, it comes from like my mind, you know? But I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's like, we're just these, like, we all are.
It's so crazy.
And we all are like these vehicles of the universe, like channeling. I mean, I I can get very like hippy dippy with it all, but that's just what I believe, you know?
It's so funny. I feel like I'm like looking at a mirror right now. I'm like, everything that you say, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like you're so similar to me. It's crazy.
It's,
like,
what sign are you?
Taurus.
Oh, okay. Wow. May, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Taurus rising.
Are you really?
Yeah.
But when she's saying this, like her exact, like that was my exact answer. Like literally,
wow.
like
You know what I want to know from both of you? When you go into the room with people you're friends with, that you've worked with before, that you trust, does it change the way that you appear, that you create, that you channel that day?
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
So like, you know, when you're going in with somebody you've worked with a ton and they know who you are, they know what you're like, they know, you know, just who Sarah is, does it help you be in this place where you can be your vessel versus having to like fight for it a bit and be in your mind? Like, does who you're with influence how you're writing and who you are in that room that day?
I mean, do you
okay,
want to take it away?
I'm so curious about what you would say. I feel like you'd have the same answer, but I feel like it helps and hinders.
Oh.
It can help or hinder, because I think when you get to know someone so well, you're so comfortable that it doesn't push you sometimes. And I think the pushing aspect brings you to like an unworldly place sometimes for me. Like, I feel like sometimes the most uncomfortable situations become the most magical. In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, definitely. I mean, I definitely start to fall into a pattern of, I only want to work with the people I know I work well with, because there is that energy. It's like effortless. Yeah. It's flowing. It's we have fun. And like you said, if I walk away at the end of the day and we had a blast, like, cool, that's good enough, you know? Exactly. And then if the song does something, amazing. That's so cool, you know? Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I've been in scenarios where I'm like, okay, like, I don't know anyone in this room. Like, you know, here we go. And it's been like, oh my God, I've met some of my new favorite people. So it is both. I always like, though, to have at least one person in the room that I know I work well with, just in the beginning of like a new scenario, just so I don't know, so I can like gauge.
No, that is helpful. But you did say something interesting, because you talked about Dark Horse and how...
Right. True. I'd never worked with any of those people.
How crazy is that?
Very true.
And let me ask you this. What about Levitating?
Levitating was the opposite, was like my actual like family. Okay.
I thought I had a point here.
No, but that is actually... It is a point. It is. Yeah. It's both scenarios. Right. And that both had, you know, an amazing outcome, where I was pushed in one scenario to like really just be like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, let's go. Yeah. And the other one, I was just having the best day ever with my friends.
And that's, I guess, what I meant by help and hinder. Because sometimes when you're like with your friends and you have the liberty to be like, oh, let's just get into this tomorrow, I think it like makes you feel too, like, in my opinion, what you were saying, where you're like, it's your mind and you're like, you enter that. But when to me, sometimes when I'm pushed beyond my limits, it makes me enter like this other door where you're like, you almost just leave, and you're like autopilot. It just starts to be like, who is this person that's coming out? But it's like all these things are flowing. I don't know. It's like, that's my...
It's so funny. Like sometimes after those type of scenarios, like where you go in with new people and you actually have a good session. Right. Sometimes when I leave, I'm like, oh, like I can do this. Like, I don't know why. It's so crazy. Like, after all these years, sometimes I'm like, wait, how do I do this again?
But you know what? You just said it. You're using the energy that's either like uncomfortable, or there's a push or expectations or whatever. You're just channeling that into a different kind of capacity, right? Yeah. I wouldn't even be surprised, and this is completely like hypothetical, but I wouldn't be surprised if the music reflects what state you're in. If you're with, ooh. Like, is Dark Horse different from Levitating for you because you had two different experiences? In what way?
That's really interesting.
Right? Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Because it's coming from a different place, but you're getting to that same kind of channeled thing, but you're channeling something more intense or energetically kind of, and I don't know, like...
does the energy of the room and the combination of people, is that sort of channeled into the song?
I think for sure.
I do too.
Because everything's connection. Like whether or not the unfamiliar or the familiar, still connection.
Yeah.
Right? Because even today, like meeting you or being able to spend this time, you're still, whether or not we're like new friends, you're just like, you're like, oh my God, where have you been my whole life? That's the kind of blind date you want.
Yeah. So, you know what it sounds like? Almost like athletes where it's competitive. It has to be, right? Because you're playing against somebody. But again, hopefully more about you and doing even better than you did and learning from whatever you experienced before. But then whether your opposition is stronger or if it's with you, like you're focusing on how your team or whatever is with you, it's going to land in a particular way, like magically and co-created with the universe. But if it's really competitive, sometimes it ups your game because you need to then shift, right? To do something even more amazing, but you're still in flow both times.
I like that, thinking of it like that.
Do you know what's so interesting too? Like, I'm sure you feel this being that you're so spiritual, but like, I always test this out. You have to be super connected. It can't like fake it, but like the ability that we have to like exchange thoughts. Like I could literally sit here and think something, and if I feel it, like you feel it, right? You have to feel it in your gut.
Yeah.
And if you do, I could exchange that and you'll know exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And you'd probably be like, oh, she's thinking that she was like, you may not know my life experience, but you might be like, it could be relatively specific too. I found like you could say a word that would be like, all of a sudden you'd be like, start talking about, let's say I was thinking about being bullied or something in elementary school. And then you were like, oh, I was just thinking of this time in elementary school.
Right.
And I exchanged that to you and you don't know why you thought of it.
Right.
But like, does that ever happen? Like that's
all the
like
time.
all the time. It gives me goosebumps. It's so cool, right?
Well, we're just tapping into the same frequency, you know?
It makes me, like, isn't that so cool that we can do that as humans?
Are you ever in a session and it's like you say the same word as someone, right? At the same time, or it's like you sing the same thing or someone sings and you're like, I was just thinking that in my mind. Like, it's just, I don't know, like everything's energy, everything's frequency. And we're if we open ourselves up enough, we just like tap into it, you know?
The other day I was in a session and we were writing a melody in one room and then someone else was writing a melody in the other room and he came out and it was the same melody. And it was like an intricate melody, like not even like it was like a weird one.
That's
we were
so
like,
crazy.
And she was like, you heard us, right? And he was like, no. It was like, honestly, like same rhythm, same melody, same key.
Wow.
Is that not strange? I was just like, but it's not, I guess, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
No.
But it proves to you that like there's really, I mean, is there like a science to it?
I
know you might know.
I don't know about that specific thing, but there's a really interesting study about these monkeys on 2 different islands. Did you ever hear of the 100th monkey theory?
No.
Okay, so there's these monkeys. It's so weird. I don't know that it's explainable, but it's very similar. Okay, so there's 2 islands separated by water, and on each of the islands there are monkeys, and they develop their capacity to use tools and to evolve exactly at the same rate, even though they have no contact with one another. So I don't know if it's the energetic thing. I don't know if it's evolution or both or what the heck it is, but it's similar in that way where it's like energy is, begets energy, and then synergistically the sum is greater than the whole of its parts.
Yeah.
Or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, that's interesting.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's pretty special. Isn't that nice what we have as human beings?
Totally. Cool. And you know what else? You just said a really important thing because I think all human beings have it. Like you guys could teach people how to do it specific to your field, but when anybody's in their like right work and they're in that generative, like this is what I do. I bet you know this too, right? Because when you're in your zone and you're doing what you do, because this is what you're supposed to do. It's what you're meant to do, right? That fit, which is like what you were talking about like your songs. It's a fit for whoever you're working with, for whoever hears it, the whole 9 yards. So in that context, when you're in your right work, you're in flow too.
Yeah.
So am I. I can't remember.
Yeah. It applies to everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I definitely think it does.
Yes.
There's nothing like, and obviously I'm not a creative, so I would love to hear.
I think you are.
But I'd love to hear what you guys feel in that. But like, there's nothing like when you hit that flow and you are just sailing through everything you're like trying to do that day. And you're like, you come out of it and you're like, thank God that hit today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that state just feels so good.
Well, it feels like, you're in alignment. You're like, this is this is what it's like. This is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, it's your purpose. You're in alignment. it just clicks.
Exactly.
You know what it feels like? It feels like this is my favorite feel. Like I love New York for this, but like when you're walking through a sea of people and you feel so like it's almost like the sea of people is like the water or something, and you're just in it.
That.
Do you know what I'm saying? And it feels like that as you're walking, you're just like swimming through it, and you're like, oh my God. And the energy is because of New York and how like, you know, exciting it is all the time. There's something you're like, as a kid, at least, like growing up, seeing a city like that, you're like, oh my God, this is so huge. But all of a sudden you're just like, no, it just feels like you're flowing.
Part of it.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, if you even like zoom out even further and think of like the planet and that we're in this like galaxy and like we're all little pieces of this planet and this galaxy and the stars and all of it, like no wonder we are all like connected.
Mm-hmm.
And no wonder our thoughts are the same and I don't know. I just think
it's like what you said earlier. It's about the vulnerability and the confidence, which is like honesty. You just did it here. When you guys were talking, it sounded like you were both going to say exactly the same thing.
I know.
Second.
Yeah.
And what's so cool, as you were saying this, I just kept on thinking about this stuff. We're almost like all human beings are a puzzle, and without each human, something disaligns in a weird way.
That's it.
I don't know.
I just read this recently. I don't remember the number, but the probability that we're actually in existence is like so vast.
Wow.
Like that we actually exist, and then that we're actually here.
Yeah. Oh my
like
God.
one
I know.
in like billions and billions and billions, trillions and everything.
It's so
wild.
wild.
That kind of like brings me back
Like
to feeling
infinitesimally
grateful.
small.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
I
Okay.
love that.
Wait, it's
Sorry.
infinitesimally small? Like it's
The
such
fact that we exist, as a person that I was born is like,
Right.
infinitesimal.
Well, I love you were born. I love that you were born.
On this
I
planet.
just read it this week, so that's why I was like, whoa, that like when you zoomed out right then, I was just like,
no, and I remind myself to do that too, even when what we were talking about earlier with like, you know, feeling competitive or down on myself or all this stuff. I'm like, if I zoom out and I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally like a speck on a speck on a speck on a speck. Like, just fucking enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, go buy that fucking pair of shoes. Like, go.
Yeah, go get
pet
them,
your
Angie.
dog.
They're staring at
you
you.
should show the shoes.
You know what I mean? Go buy the shoes. Go pet the dog. Go to Japan. Go do the, like, it's just so.
You know what? I'm going to book my flight. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but it's just teeny
Yeah.
tiny, like, and that brings it back to gratitude again. It's like, oh my God, I'm grateful. Like, I'm breathing. I'm alive right now. Like, how cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate this. This has been so nice. And
I
we have
could
to do
go
a dinner.
for
We could do
hours
a dinner
and
for
hours.
hours.
I feel like we could.
But before we wrap, can you sign this?
Hell yeah. Oh my God, I would love to.
What phrase should we? I mean, you pick the phrase.
Oh, yeah.
Like a little phrase and then sign it.
Okay, let me think.
And can we? I kind of like that the orange Sharpie appeared with her outfit.
Yeah.
I know, I love that.
I mean,
one,
it kind of
Sharpie.
matches. I love that.
I gotta think a phrase.
Because this will be special.
Yeah.
This will always be. That's pretty cool. Love that.
Yeah. Thank you, Taylor Guitars.
Thank you, Taylor Guitars.
I thought you were gonna
Keep 'em
say
coming.
Taylor Swift. I was like, oh.
Thank you, Taylor Swift.
We put that out in the universe.
This is so cool. This guitar is interesting because usually the ones that we get have like a lighter body. So this is it's the first time I'm seeing this one.
I said, always be and do you.
Oh, that's
Love that.
Oh, I love that.
Sarah Hudson.
Let's see. That's so cool.
Can you see it in the
You can
orange?
see it, yeah. And I think it's nice because it kind of like camouflages, but you can read it.
Cool. I love
Very
that.
We love that. All right. Well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank
This
you
has been
so much.
awesome.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Okay,
My
yeah.
favorite things
You're
to
cool.
talk about. So
This was amazing.